And welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Doing a video response here. Haven't done one of these in a while. Alan Steward, Mamemeister, has posed a really good question to the community. If you could have only one system from now on, one gaming rig, one console or what have you, handheld, anything, but only one going forward, what would it be? I thought that was a good question. I had a little think and I was surprised at my own answer. As a side note, this is very similar, and I'm going to borrow a few notes from something that somebody asked Steve Benway recently. And don't feel bad, Alan. There are many times I've thrown out a video thinking, oh yeah, this is something that nobody's been addressing recently, and then only to find out, oh, somebody did. So, but what I want to do is borrow some of the ideas that Steve Benway had when he answered this question. He had said, okay, it kind of depends on the circumstances. Like, his ideal thing would be to get a PlayStation 3, one of the first generations, the ones that have got the backwards compatibility, because then you got PS3, PS2, PS1, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And Alan was kind of aiming for, well, you can't have MAME, for example, on a PC, so I'm going to borrow a note from what Steve's reply had in it. Steve said, okay, so if not, the intention sounds more like if you could only play the games that were originally designed with that console in mind, what would you choose? Which then kind of leads to, well, what about the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis? It also had add-ons like the 32X, which I personally love, and the Sega CD add-on. You know, is that just one console? Is that now three? That kind of thing. And Steve had a very interesting final thought. Now, mine is gonna be along those lines. I'm thinking, okay, what is the console I would like to get? And I'll only really count the games that were designed with that console in mind. I'm not gonna have anything with like backwards compatibility and that kind of stuff. Kind of. Now, in Alan's response, or when he first posed the question, he was sort of saying that, you know, he loves things like the Vectrex, for example, which is a great console, probably my favorite console in my collection. But Alan said he doesn't actually really play it that often, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't really play my Vectrex that much. I love having it, and there's some awesome stuff for it, but I don't really play it all that much because those games are kind of limited. And Alan never had an Atari 2600, but I did think to myself, okay, that's a console I grew up with and I love, and I would never want to lose the ability to not be able to play. No, I would never want to lose the ability to play 2600 games. I've got handhelds, I've got flashbacks, I've got all these things. I've got compilations for like the Nintendo DS. I would never want to lose that ability because it's the first real console. I had a Pong machine first, but the 2600 is really my nostalgia machine. I mean, that's where if I fire up some of those games, I'm right back to being 10 or 12 years old. So, but I had to think about it like, okay, so your answer is the Atari. Okay, problem solved. Well, not really. The 2600's great for me for the time, but those are very limited games. I mean, I love them, but they are very limited. Would I want to not be able to play anything but Atari going forward? Not really. I've often used the example, it's kind of like asking a car collector, do you have a Model T Ford in your collection? Probably not. It's the first one. It's a classic. It's a great car. But people who collect cars don't get Model T Fords because they don't go very fast and they're kind of, you know, primitive and basic. Atari 2600 is the same way. I love having it. I love my nostalgic memories for it, but I will admit, some pretty rudimentary and very basic games. So, after much thought, I thought, okay, it's not going to be the Atari 2600, and it's not going to be the Vectrex, even though that is, outside of nostalgia, that is my favorite console that I have. Love the Vectrex. I'm not going to put that as the one machine I would want to play going forward. I don't really have any connection to that kind of 90s era with the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis or the Super NES or the Neo Geo or any of those things, so that's not really none of those machines I would want to play. Though I do love the 32X. So I think I'd have to go a little more modern. And handhelds are really out for me. Again, I like a lot of handhelds, but I will be the first to admit they are basically just portable, rudimentary, scaled-down versions of what were around for the home consoles. So, no, I'm not going to want to have a Game Boy forever or a Game Gear forever. So, I thought, okay, a little more recent then. What I was kind of leaning toward is, okay, I want something that's got long legs, a game that or a console that can deliver to me experiences for a long time. That probably means open world games. So I guess Grand Theft Auto 3 is the first of those, and I do have an Xbox, original Xbox. Is that the game I would want? Is that the console I'd like to get? Not really. Again, I don't have a nostalgic connection to that era, and although those open world games are great, they got so much better later that if I'm going to use kind of a lot of options as my guiding light, I'm not really going to go for that era, the Xbox, PS2, or GameCube era. So, surprisingly, I actually thought the Wii, because that was sort of my return to gaming after a long time of being a PC gamer. I'm not going to choose PC games because I think now that I have worked a job for many, many years where I'm behind a computer at work all the time, I don't want to do that at home, so computer games are up. So it's going to be a console, and I thought, well, in that time then, the Wii was actually a really good console, one that I had a lot of fun with. I just posted a video about Mad World. Really like the Wii, despite it also being, you know, full of disappointments for me. I've done a video about that. I think the Wii delivers a lot of things, like it's got role-playing games, it's got action games, it's got fighting games, it's got all the Mario and Nintendo stuff. There aren't, and like light gun games and things, boxing simulators and skiing games, there's a lot of things you can do on the Wii because of those varying types of controls that you have at your disposal. So the Wii nearly made the cut. I really thought about it. I thought, would I go for the Wii? Because I can do kind of arcadey type experiences. I can do motion slashy things. I've got adventure games a lot. But again, if I want to use that kind of open world concept as one of my guiding lights, we didn't have a heck of a lot of those. There are a few, and I've mentioned them actually in some of my video responses. But it's not a console famous for, here's a huge open world, you can do anything you want to. And I think for me that's kind of important, having now played some big games like Assassin's Creed, for example. Wow, I would like, I need something like that in this one console forever future of mine. So I need something that's a big open world, and the Wii just doesn't have it. It's got a few, but nothing to the scale of like the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So I guess, all right, so that would be, I'm back to Steve Benway then, the PlayStation 3. And then I just thought, no, I'm actually going to choose the PlayStation 4. That is the console that actually has surprisingly, and I didn't even intend on getting a PlayStation 4 originally. Maybe I'll do a video about that someday. I had no plan of doing it, and then due to various circumstances, I ended up with one, and I have not looked back. My God, that thing can deliver. It has, I'm in the middle of playing Red Dead Redemption 2 right now. I could just play this forever. I've played Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PS3, but I know there's a PS4 version as well. Now, here's a question. This is a bit of a cheat, I think, maybe because there are previous generation games that have been ported for the PS4. There's like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which I have yet to play, and I really want to. Huge open world, but that was a PS3 game that now has a PS4 version, or the Tomb Raider games, or like, is it unfair for me to have set this idea that Steve Benway mentioned of, okay, it's got to be games that are the intention is, were these games designed with this console in mind? No, these are ports of old games. And similarly, Alan said you're not allowed MAME. I've got stuff on my PS4 that is Mamemeister. There's some Namco collections like Pac-Man and Galaga and that kind of stuff that I've got for my PS4. Side note to Namco, or whoever it was who released that, why is Galaga 1 GB in size to install on my PS4? Like, that game is maybe a few hundred K in size. Why is it that big on my plate? Whatever. High definition graphics, I guess. So if Alan's not allowing MAME, am I at least allowed retro collections? Because you got the Sega Genesis collection, I've got the Atari, the first pack of Atari flashback games on my PS4. Love it, played a lot. Is that allowed? Is that not? If not, I think I would still stick with the PS4 though, because Alan said Wi-Fi was a possibility. So we are assuming this isn't a desert island system. You're not cut off from the rest of the world. You just can't buy any new consoles. Okay, well, the PS4, as long as that network is still allowing me to connect, it's got online games that I love. I still play Star Wars Battlefront to this day. There's a little community that's keeping that game going. That's fantastic. I would play that forever. On the note of the desert island game, I've often wondered if somebody ever asks me, what's your desert island game? I know what it is. I'll save the answer because it might get asked of me someday. But that game that I know I would want on a desert island is actually on the PlayStation 4, and I have not mentioned it yet. So, I just thought, well, yeah, PS4, I think that's the one. And the final nail in the coffin, the one that just sealed the deal for me to have that as my answer, PlayStation VR. I, again, did not really think I was going to go for that. I waited almost a year to get on board. That thing can deliver so many amazing experiences, and I play it regularly, and it's just something unique. I love the PlayStation VR. So PS4 has open world games, lots and lots of indie games and all kinds of things that are, if not actual retro ports and old, collections, flashback collections. There's a lot of modern games that are retro inspired. I think Shovel Knight, for example, is that on PS4? I think so. If not, there's a pile that are on the PS4. And I think that's pretty much got me covered. And then if you add in VR as well, sold, man. It's the PS4 for me. So there's my answer to Alan Steward, and I'll upload this. And yeah, if anybody else wants to join in, please feel free. I'll put Alan's video down below, link to it. And yeah, until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.